Ladies and gentlemen, in this video we're going to be having a look at another Stasis subclass brought to us with Beyond Light, the Titan Behemoth. We've already checked the Shadebinder Warlock off the list, and if you haven't seen that video yet, I'll have it up at the end of this one. But if wearing robes, floating through the air, and wielding an ice staff isn't quite your thing, maybe the Titan Behemoth will be more your style. And if at your core you're already a Titan main, fear not, this new Stasis subclass still revolves around charging into stuff and punching things. You're gonna love it. Probably. Because while this subclass does do a lot of things well, it definitely feels a shade weak in certain aspects. But we're going to discuss all those things in this video and see how the subclass stacks up in both the PvP and PvE sides of Destiny 2. And do note that this is going to be a guide/breakdown of the basics. We'll go over general functionality, get a sense of what kind of damage we can output, and get a feel for the subclass's overall viability. We'll also touch on the first alternate grenade and the first aspect that you can unlock. But we're going to stop things there, because in the upcoming weeks, as these subclasses become more fleshed out, I'll start putting out some more advanced guides, so watch out for those coming up. But if you find this video useful, helpful, or enjoyable, feel free to give it a like. And consider subscribing to the Ironworker Gaming channel to catch more Destiny 2 Beyond Light content in the very near future. And with that, let's get into the review with a quick overview of our Titan Behemoth. This here is your freshly released Titan Behemoth with a sharp-looking updated user interface. If you haven't unlocked any of your new subclasses yet, you're gonna gain access to them when you finish the main campaign in Beyond Light. But with our Behemoth, right off the bat, you're still gonna have access to the Towering Barricade and the Rally Barricade. The Strafe Lift, the High Lift, and the Catapult Lift are all options that are still available as a jump ability. But your brand new way to break things with your fists is Shiver Strike. Press and hold your melee button to leap through the air. Releasing unleashes a powerful dash attack that knocks targets back, slowing them and damaging them. And this description sounds a little more impressive than the action itself, but we'll have a look at it in a few moments. The first grenade you're going to have access to is the same for every class, and is the Glacier Grenade. This creates a wall out of stasis shards that can block damage, freeze targets, and these pillars can be shattered to deal damage. Your first unlockable grenade, which here again is going to be in the same order for every class, is obtained by finishing the first two steps of the Heart of Darkness quest. This is the Duskfield Grenade. It shatters on impact and leaves behind a field that slows targets and freezes those who do not leave the volume. The first aspect you'll have access to after completing the Aspect of Control quest is Cryoclasm. This enables a longer, more powerful slide. Sliding into stasis crystals or frozen targets will shatter them, and any nearby frozen targets. I do have some fragments unlocked on my account, but like I said earlier, we're gonna get into those another day. But our brand new super is Glacial Quake, where you summon a stasis gauntlet. While your super is active, you can perform a slam attack to create a shockwave that freezes targets, and sends out stasis crystals to freeze additional ones. Your Shiver Strike melee will be supercharged for bonus damage, and you can sprint through stasis crystals or frozen targets to shatter them. But let's dive into the subclass's functionality and check out what all of this means. Alright, we'll start out with a look at the new melee, because there's nothing more Titan than punching stuff. Shiver Strike is similar to a shoulder charge, in the sense that you lunge at an enemy in the hopes of dealing damage. But Shiver Strike can be deployed from a dead stop, no sprinting necessary. But unlike a shoulder charge, regardless of whether you hit a target or not, your melee charge will be consumed. Now, if you just tap the melee button, your Titan will lunge a short distance. But if you hold down the melee button, your Titan can cover some serious ground. And there is some target tracking with this attack, but not a ton. Shiver Strike does approximately twice as much damage as a standard uncharged melee, and will knock a target back rather aggressively. On contact, it also creates a slow effect to both the target struck and nearby enemies. This effect, while it only lasts for a few seconds, also suppresses targets. This ability also gives you the power to plow clean through stasis crystals. In PvP, this melee is not a one-hit kill, unless of course you blow the enemy guardian back into a piece of cover where they take impact damage and die, and this is a sight to behold. But just from the melee alone, we are outputting 105 points of damage. And just in case you are wondering, the suppression effect from these stasis abilities does not knock a player out of their roaming super like a suppressor grenade would. For the Glacier Grenade, it creates a wall of stasis crystals that is 5 wide and 1 deep. These crystals have the ability to stick to any solid surface and can be used as platforms to stand on if you so choose. Enemies caught by this wall will be frozen, but larger enemies are going to break free of this effect much quicker than your basic trash ads will. Each stasis crystal can be shattered individually to cause damage to nearby enemies. In PvP, if you smack an enemy guardian directly with this grenade, it's going to do exactly 2 points of impact damage. And each individual crystal that gets shattered can deal up to 85 points of damage to an enemy guardian. This obviously diminishes based on proximity, so at minimum, you're going to need to shatter 3 crystals to deal lethal damage. And once we have it unlocked, we will have access to our Dusk Field grenade. On impact, it creates a stasis field that does very minor damage to enemy targets, but applies a slow effect and eventually freezes them. This grenade also has a vacuum effect that draws enemies in toward the center of the bubble. The duration of this grenade is roughly 7 seconds, so targets can be frozen and shattered multiple times with a single grenade. When using the Dusk Field grenade in the Crucible, the damage you're going to see from both the impact and the damage per ticks are pretty much negligible. But this will freeze an enemy guardian solid in roughly 3 seconds. With our Glacial Quake Super, when activated, any enemy targets in close proximity will be immediately frozen. The same effect will be seen when you activate a slam attack, so you can either punch frozen targets or simply run through them to deal shatter damage. The slam will also create a wave of stasis crystals though, 6 in total. 2 will fan to the left, 2 will fan to the right, and 2 will head straight away center. These crystals only do a small amount of damage when impacting an enemy, but they will be frozen solid and open to high damage from your melee attack. You can also sprint through these stasis crystals and shatter them like they weren't even there. But do keep in mind that both the slam attack and the melee attack will use energy from the super bar. For the super in PvP, if you freeze an enemy and then sprint into them, they will take lethal damage. Striking an enemy with one of the stasis crystals from the super will deal roughly 50 points of damage. If you drop your slam directly on the enemy's face, you will still only deal 50 points of damage from the shockwave. But any enemy frozen by your super is obviously there for an easy cleanup. The super also can allow you to move around the map very quickly. Lastly, taking a look at the Cryoclasm aspect. This gives Titans the ability to shatter stasis crystals simply by sliding into them. These crystals usually require a handful of bullets or 2 melees to break them. This allows our Titan to deal immediate shatter damage from these stasis crystals. When using this aspect in PvP, it does pair quite nicely with the Glacier Wall grenade, since even if you slide into a single crystal, the whole wall is going to shatter. Plus, extra slide distance is always nice. So yeah, I know there's kind of a lot going on here, but how does our Titan Behemoth perform in-game? On the performance end of things, to be quite honest, I was a shade underwhelmed by the Behemoth subclass. But do keep in mind I am stepping down from using a Shadebinder Warlock, which is pretty strong. But the whole premise of Stasis in general isn't built for raw damage, and this really doesn't match the mood that I associate with running a Titan. I'm generally expecting big powerful melee abilities and very smashy damage dealing supers. And don't get me wrong, you do get the smash, but I feel like it's a much more calculated version of smashing. It's not like running a Striker Titan, or a Sunbreaker with Burning Maul, where you just pop your super and everything starts dying. It is a bit of a process to slam the ground, and then start scanning the battlefield for enemies that got frozen. And it's not to say that it's a bad thing to be a little more cognizant of your surroundings, but it's definitely not the brain off, hold forward gameplay that I'm used to as a Titan. Then the Shiver Strike melee is kind of meh, in my opinion. Now, I mean, it's cool and all, you can cover some serious ground with the lunge, and I really do like the knockback effect, but the slow and suppression from it is laughably short. And let me tell you, it feels bad whiffing one of these melees. Every time I miss, I feel really stupid. Things do start to get better once we get the Cryoclasm aspect unlocked though. It really does make the Glacier Grenade feel more powerful because we're not dumping clips of bullets into it to get it to shatter. You can get immediate damage from the crystal just by sliding into it, which is very nice. And dare I say this aspect makes Salvation's grip just a little bit more usable? In PvP, I'm a little underwhelmed here also. Now, I don't drag my Titan into PvP all that often. I'm certainly not a novice with the class, but I'm not as well versed in the ways of a Titan as I am with the ways of a Warlock. The melee not being a one-hit kill in the Crucible is hard for me to wrap my head around. If it was, given the lunge range, it could be a little bit busted. I mean, to me, it looks like a shoulder charge, it feels like a shoulder charge, but it just doesn't hit like a shoulder charge. And while it can be used as a movement ability to get out of a bad situation really quick, due to its one and done nature, it's just not one that you can lean on. Then when using the super, I'm often tempted just not to use the slam and rely on the melee attack. Now don't get me wrong, when I see a group of enemy players piled up, that slam is definitely coming out. But it seems just as well to roam around the map and charge into enemy players one by one. But when doing this, it does seem like you need to be a little more accurate with those melees due to the limited nature of the target tracking. Here again, the aspect is a nice quality of life improvement. Not so much because you can slide through crystals and smash them, but because of that increased slide distance. It kinda makes my Titan feel like he's wearing transversive steps. This is a nice usability boost if you're an aggressive player by nature. But all in all, the Behemoth Titan definitely seems to hold the course for what Stasis as a whole is aiming to bring to the game. The big damage isn't really there, but that doesn't mean it's not useful, and that doesn't mean it's not viable. It just takes a little bit more doing and is a little more of a process to really be effective. Is it better or worse when compared to our light-based subclasses? I mean, the jury's still out on that one. Until we fully unlock the capabilities of these Stasis subclasses, it's hard to tell. But the potential is definitely there for these new Stasis classes to be very useful tools in our arsenal. So since you made it to this point in the video, if you did enjoy it, please remember to leave it a like, and consider subscribing to the Ironworker Gaming channel for more Destiny 2 content in the future. If you'd like to catch me live, you can look for Ironworker814 on Twitch. I swear, I promise, I will be back on there one of these days really soon. And if you'd like to contact me, the best way to do so is simply to comment down below. I'll be sure to get back to you. And with all that being said, I'd like to thank you for taking the time out of your day to check out this subclass breakdown. You guys are awesome, and I will catch you on the next one.